Captain Lark stepped back as the monster approached. It ignored the fish on the fire. Instead, it stepped towards the hungry sailor. He marveled at the creature before him. It had an owl's head on a large body, taller than a man. Feathers and fur covered it. Small black claws dug in the dirt as it moved. It let out a squawk and charged him. The mage sent out a wave of flames. Yet the owlbear didn't care. It kept going, oblivious to the attack. Razor-sharp claws slashed at the captain's chest. He winced in pain as he fled across the stream. Conjuring his next spell, he sent a storm of lightning out. Feathers ignited, but were quickly extinguished as it plunged into the water on its way towards him. The owlbear didn't stop. It wouldn't stop. Every fiber of its existence was set on killing this human. That was the only thing it recognized. An all-encompassing desire to kill. One that Captain Locke was processing just as vigorously. Welcome back to Mythical Phylogeny Adventurers. I'm your guide, Jason. There are many fascinating creatures in Dungeons & Dragons. One of the more well-known and influential is the owlbear. Let's take a look at this strange and flawed creature. The owlbear has several origins it has collected over the years. Some claim that a mad wizard created it, while others say that it has existed since time began. Personally, I know which I believe here. Regardless, it is described as a terrestrial bird up to 10 feet or 3 meters tall, and 500 pounds or 227 kilograms. Its talons are hidden under a mixture of fur and feathers, depending on who describes it, while its wings have been reformed into paws. Overall, it looks like someone took an enlarged owl's head and surgically grafted it onto a bear's body. Thus, the oh-so-original name. This sounds simple, doesn't it? Yeah, you all know where I'm going with this. Owls and bears have very different designs. The best way to describe them is the bear is a bulky tank, while the owl is the perfect example of a min-max glass cannon build, and those two don't mix so well. Let's take a look at the owl first. They are nocturnal animals. The feathers have a serrated design which reduces the sound of flight to nearly nothing. I've actually had an owl fly so close to my head that its feathers touched my face. Even at that close range, the owl's flight sounded little more than a hand moving past my ear. This allows for the owl to rely on a quick ambush fight. They don't want a long drawn-out battle. They can't take it. They'll wait for hours for an opening. The perfect familiar for an assassin. I honestly don't know why mages keep keeping them as their familiars. But the owlbear doesn't need all that. It can't fly. Like most birds, their bones are hollow, which reduce the weight of flight. That makes them brittle, but again, not needed for our owlbear. But that isn't the end of the skeletal woes of the owlbear. Birds have an enlarged sternum called a keel to allow for muscle attachments needed for flight. If this is kept, it would open up a greater amount of strength in the chest for grappling. Now, have you ever wondered how an owl can rotate its head 270 degrees? Well, there is a reason I call the owl a min-max build. What do I mean? Let's look at the owl's neck. A human and a bear's neck have 7 vertebrae compared to the owl's 14. Other birds like swans and flamingos have more vertebrae, but lack the next trait. Bears have 2 occipital articulations, where the spinal column joins the skull, but owls only have 1. This gives it a lot more range of motion, but makes it very fragile. To prevent strangling itself, the jugular arteries and veins have an alternate layout. But this all comes at a price. Have you ever seen an owl without feathers? Yikes! It's tiny. But did you look at the neck? It's about the size of your thumb for a great horned owl. That means you could snap the neck with your bare hands. But with all the modifications to their skeleton, it is even more fragile. It doesn't take much force to break their necks. That means death for them. Why do they have the specialized neck? I mean, it sounds like a dangerous gamble in design. Well, the answer is in their eyes. Owl eyes are extra large to provide improved night vision, but comes at the cost of not being able to move. That means the owl needs to turn its head to look in different directions. Oh, but there is more. Birds have a unidirectional lung system to prevent mixing old and new air with each breath. Important for flying, but not as important on the land, but is still useful to allow for increased endurance. Now, What does this mean for our owlbear? Well, does it have the bear's bulk? That would depend on how it handles winters. Bears sleep through most of the winter by storing up fat deposits to just avoid it. But owls, they don't migrate or hibernate. They stay active all winter. They use their feathers to trap air and offer warmth. That means the owlbear wouldn't have the fat stores, but just be really fluffy. Then we have the claws. This is an easy one. If the owlbear doesn't need to fly, we can copy the talon design onto the ends of the new arms. I would also extend the feathers down the legs to protect them. But we can leave the foot design the same. It will help with climbing. That will influence its diet. Owls struggle to chew on their food and will usually just swallow it whole. Then they will regurgitate out a pellet filled with fur and bones which it can't digest. Due to the owlbear's size, it should be able to tear its food apart, particularly if it can use its paws and feet to hold the prey down while it feeds. The owlbear will need larger prey than the mice that the owls eat. That means going after deer and other large animals. Due to its size, it won't be able to use stealth. It'll have to rush its prey and overwhelm it with sheer power. It will want to drive its prey into a corner, deep mud or a heavy thicket where it can use its size to its advantage. We'll also need a nest. Building a nest large enough for an owlbear would be difficult in a tree. That would mean it either digs a burrow or finds a cave. Either would offer the protection for the eggs for the owlbear. Now I talked about the two origin claims, mad sorcerer and the claim that they have always existed. Which do I think is true? That would be the sorcerer. You see, there is one massive flaw, something so major that it easily puts the owlbear in constant danger. What is it? The neck. All sources I found say the owlbear can turn its head like a regular owl. And I told you that the owls have a fragile neck. So what happens when you lower the owl head to fit on a bear's body? Oh, it will get thicker, but still smaller than your wrist. And I hate to say it, but a wrist can still be easily broken. That's the problem for the owlbear. Even if it had bones as hard as a bear's, you're looking at something roughly the size of a small dog's neck. That'll leave it weak to an attack by something like a mace. Something large and blunt can leave it stunned, if not fully paralyzed. A sword or an axe could work just as effectively against the skull, but you could just grab a large branch off a tree and take a swing at it. A spear or arrow will get through all that fluffy protection. The feathers will make attacks around the body and neck difficult, but you'll be able to cut through it without too much difficulty. They will also be at risk from fire and lightning attacks. An icy spear will pierce it as well, but cold wind spells won't work. It is too well insulated. Throwing a large heavy rock will be cushioned, but against a large enough one, you could do some harm. Now with the bird's respiratory system, it will be very susceptible to poisons. A strong toxic gas will drop it quickly. The owlbear will need to attack with its claws first. That means chainmail, gambeson, or plate will offer protection. Unless you can get through that, you'll be safe. Guard your neck and other joints. You can use a shield to fend off its attack, but you won't be able to hold it back if the owlbear leans down on your shield. At that point, you want to backstep to safety. Most accounts talk about how the owlbear will try to grab you and hold you in a hug or tries to bite you with its beak. I know it looks fluffy and soft, but don't try to hug the owlbear. Avoid its paws. If it does grab you, you'll need to stop the beak. It'll hurt, but you could try a headbutt. That could stun it. You'll struggle to break its grasp. That does leave open for your party members to counter. You do have a party, right? After all, it will struggle to attack from that position. With the owl's night vision, it would be better for it to attack at night, but that's where the bear's body is going to be an issue. Bears aren't too stealthy. Oh, they can sneak up on you if you aren't paying attention, but they are large and going to make some noise. Imagine trying to sneak around in a castle wearing full plate armor that clangs about with every step. Nothing on par to the sound of an owl in flight. Yeah, the owlbear isn't as stealthy as an owl. Still, pay attention to what is going on. With the night vision, you can unleash a flash of light to disrupt its vision. Just protect your own eyes so that you don't blind yourself. Without the bear's sense of smell, you can also use a blindness spell. This is what you get when you're trying to make a stealth build with a tank. I'll be honest, the Owlbear is poorly designed. Size and bulk do not work well with the stealth specializations of an owl. It is a major waste. If I was to create a creature like this, I would go for an owl leopard or cheetah. They would offer a creature which would complement the owl's natural ability in favor of the same fast ambush attack strategy. Or maybe a bear eagle, something that has a little more power and bulk to it. That brings up another story with the owlbear. It's said that once it attacks, it won't quit until the fight is over. It will keep fighting no matter how badly it has been hurt. Reckless and stupid. A berserker. Thanks to the bird's respiratory system, it will have much better endurance. It can wear you out quickly. That means it is very easy to lure it into a trap. Let it chase you into a spike trap that you dug before. But if it attacks first, you won't be able to scare it off. It is a do or die fight. Please do. Dying is usually the wrong option. The owlbear does have one more major weakness. Its back. You can't reach it with its claws. The only way it can get you there is by turning its head. That would leave it in a position that you could easily force the neck past its usual range of motion. While on its back, the only way it can counter you is to roll over or slam you into a tree or wall. There isn't that much. The owlbear is a flawed creature, so badly designed that I truly believe it must be the result of an insane sorcerer's random thought. Its neck is such a weakness, you might be able to break it with a half-decent punch. This is why there is no way I can give the owlbear anything but a 2 out of 10 for difficulty. If it did not have the ability to turn its head, it would be much better off. When you defeat the owlbear, you'll get its feathers. You can use the downy feathers in bedding, pillows, and the other feathers can be used in decorations. The meat is a little fatty in gaming, but not too bad. So long as it ditches the bird's hollow bones, they'll be strong enough and sturdy that you can make weapons and decorations. On the alchemical side, the bones and feathers are used in potions of strength and swiftness, both of which will act on your muscles. The eyes can be used to make a potion of night vision, but be careful with flash spells and fire. Now, I'm sure you're wondering if the owlbear can be tamed. Owls can be trained fairly easily. Bears are a little more difficult and prone to attack its trainer. So which are we dealing with here? Well, I think we have the bird option to be true. Which means yes, with careful feeding and proper skills in falconry, you may be able to tame an owlbear. Yet, it does have the tendency to rampage. I would recommend against it. When the fight starts, it has a high chance of going ballistic and could very well turn on you. You want to reduce the number of wildcards, right? I'm sure you don't want to give your foe an unexpected ally. The owlbear rushed Captain Locke. He jumped back as the oversized bird closed the gap. Fire erupted from his hands. It didn't care. It kept going. Swiping its paw, it unleashed a fury of attacks. Left paw, right paw, left paw, one after another. The sailor was getting short of breath. He panted on stolen breaths. Lightning crackled through the air. The sparks turned to cinders in the feathers as flames consumed the owlbear's figure. Unfazed, it kept attacking. Roaring in pain, it swung at Captain Locke as he dove behind a tree. The beast's claws ripped through the wood with ease. Lunging forward, the owlbear caught the sailor in its arms with one of his over his head. The beak bore down on the sailor. You could smell its foul breath. A pink tongue flicked about. Horror filled Captain Locke's eyes. Panicking, he called forth the first spell that came to mind. Flame shot out of his hand and straight in the owlbear's mouth. It coughed as the heat seared its lungs and face. When its grip loosened, he jumped backwards. Madness filled the beast, and it lashed out. Its claws rent through the same tree once more. Wood groaned as gravity dragged it down. All that weight went down on the owlbear's head, where it fell to the ground, motionless and dead. Captain Locke fell back onto the ground to breathe in his success. The owlbear is a flawed creature with several critical weaknesses that you should exploit in battle. Thank you for watching, adventurers. Please return next week where we should face a foe one of you have recommended, the Jubble Fluffy. Until then, safe travels.